Perfect. Thank you so much. And I take this opportunity once again to appreciate each one of us who has already joined. I can see Jane S26 joining from Nanyuki, running a school. Awesome. We are together in Nanyuki. And I just wanted to start by also informing us that Hallmark Institute of Professionals is a TVET college, or a mid-level college for those who may want to call it that way. We are a tertiary institution bridging the gap between the high school and the university, and also there for you to give you the professional courses if you have a degree. We also pride in short courses and continuous personal and staff development. So if you're here, you are a HR, you are a CEO, you are a supervisor, you are a leader, and you care about your continuous staff development, then Hallmark Institute of Professionals, through academics, through professional courses, through short courses, and also through corporate trainings, we got you covered. We are big in terms of business courses. We are big in terms of digital short courses. We are big in languages. We are big in pension management and insurance. And we are also very big in circles. So you are at the right place. My name is Irene Nyaga, the Managing Director and Principal for Hallmark Institute of Professionals, and I'm so happy also to see that my team is also here with us. But without much ado, I would want to take this opportunity to invite our facilitator for tonight, Mr. Mwangangi. You can be adjusting your video, your audio. If you're able to share the screen, we will appreciate, because you are a guru in the space of pension management, and we'll be telling us more about the pension space as we progress. So please, everyone who can hear me, I see we are a good number at 30. We can put in our appreciation through claps through the chat. We can clap for Mr. Mwangangi. We can, send some emojis, some flowers, so that I see that you're ready, because I also want to confirm that I was actually not speaking to myself. So karibuni sana, Mr. Mwangangi. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Thank you, Philemon. Every one of us who is appreciating him, and I can see his screen is right on. And so let me give him the floor so that he can tell us what he has in store for us. Karibu sana, my professor in the space of pension.
I am present. Irene, it is my pleasure to be a resource person for the matter of the Nssf. This facilitation is done on behalf of the Hallmark Institute of Professionals. My name is Boniface Mwangangi. I am the Secretary General of the Association of Pension Trustees and Administrators of Kenya. I would like to take you through this session because in the association for which I am the Secretary General, there are employers like yourselves. There are trustees of various pension schemes, and there are members of retirement benefit schemes. All these persons have an interest in what goes on in the pensions industry, and the Nssf plays in that field. And so a number of issues have arisen concerning the Nssf, and all those persons and others have an interest. As Secretary General, I have a duty to tell persons who are concerned about the pensions industry where we are, what is going on, and what can be done. I am a trainer in pension administration, but today I want to specifically deal with the Nssf, but I also teach law, and if you have any question on any matter raised here, we could be able to discuss. So let's check. The NSSF Act number 45 of 2013 was ascended to on 24th December 2013, and it became law for enforcement on 10th January 2014. Compliance was required to be immediate. Membership is compulsory for both the employer and an employee. And the NSSF sought to open 2 accounts, one for pension and another one for lump sum payment. There were many other requirements in that act. Compulsory registration and contribution was required for both the employer and an employee. And there was a statement that you will not be rendered public service, whether you are an employer or an employee or any Kenyan who is eligible for registration, unless you can show that you have been registered as a contributor with the NSSF. An offense was created with a fine payable not exceeding 50,000 if you refuse to register or you neglect to register with NSSF. The employer's contribution was pegged at 6% of the gross pay of an employee. And similarly, an employee's contribution was also pegged at 6% of the gross pay of the employee. The table shows how the progression of the contribution was to proceed. It is counted on the lower earning limits and upper earning limits of pay as published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. So that if we implemented the NSSF continuously, in the first year contributions will be 6,000. In the upper limit, it's 50% of the national average earnings as published by the Bureau of Statistics. The second year is 7,000. The third year is 8,000. And in the fourth year, it is 9,000, which with the publication under the by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics will be 3 times the national average earnings. And in the fifth year, which is this year now, the contributions will be 4 times the national average earnings. Those were the requirements. And there were many more. But courageous Kenyans, they felt they were offended by those provisions. And they filed various petitions in different courts in Kenya. These petitions were consolidated when they reached the courts, and they were heard as one petition, number 38 of 2014. The matter proceeded to be heard by the Employment and Labor Relations Court. And the court identified 3 issues for determination. The first issue is whether the enactment of the National Social Security Fund Act in its entirety is in violation of the Constitution. And it was also urged that the National Social Security Fund Act in its entirety is null and void. There was also an alternative issue, whether we could make a finding and declare that some provisions of that act contravene the Constitution and the Competition Act. And there were a number of reliefs that were sought in the consolidated petitions. Now, on 14th July 2014, which is not in that slide, a consent order was recorded in Nakuru, where one of the petitions was filed, and agreed that the Nssf Act 2013 will not be enforced until the petition is heard and determined by the court. And so contributions continued in the earlier range of 200 shillings from the employer and 200 from the employee. After hearing, on 19th September 2022, the Employment and Labor Relations Court made a finding that the Nssf Act number 45 of 2013 is unconstitutional, null, and void. Ladies and gentlemen, that finding means that the Nssf Act number 45 of 2013 ceased to be a law for us to obey in Kenya. It has no force of law. And therefore, the Nssf, among others, could not demand registration or contributions to it of 6% by the employer and 6% by the employee, or any contributions at all. On 3rd February 2013, the Court of Appeal made a finding that the decision of the Employment and Labor Relations Court to the effect that the Nssf Act 2013 is unconstitutional, null, and void was wrong, and therefore it was set aside because the court did not have jurisdiction to hear the case. The parties decided to go to the Supreme Court to challenge that decision. And on the 21st February 2024, the Supreme Court overruled the decision made by the Court of Appeal to the effect that the Employment and Labor Relations Court did not have jurisdiction to hear the case challenging the constitutionality of the Nssf. Ladies and gentlemen, on only that one issue, it means that the Supreme Court found that the Court of Appeal was wrong in deciding that the Employment and Labor Relations Court did not have power to hear the case. And it was the only finding by the Court of Appeal that was placed before the Supreme Court. The effect of that finding by the Supreme Court was that the judgment of the Employment and Labor Relations Court is valid for enforcement. Now, there was another matter pending before the Court of Appeal. That matter was an application by the National Social Security Fund, which sought to stay enforcement of the judgment issued by Employment and Labor Relations Court on 19th September 2022, to the effect that the National Social Security Fund Act number 45 of 2013 was unconstitutional, null, and void. The Court of Appeal did not deliver their ruling on that application until 29th May 2026. This application in May was dismissed on May 2026, and it is the application which sought to stay the enforcement of the judgment delivered by the Employment and Labor Relations Court on 19th September 2022. The direct consequence of that, ladies and gentlemen, is both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court recognized the existence of the judgment validly delivered on 19th September 2022 by the Employment and Labor Relations Court. This court declared unconstitutional, null and void the Nssf Act number 45 of 2013. The Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, therefore, in those findings, reverted the country to the National Social Security Fund Act number 250, chapter 258 of the laws of Kenya, which established the NSSF in 1965. The consequence of the two findings, ladies and gentlemen, became that the NSSF may require employers and the employees to make contributions and register under the National Social Security Fund Act, Chapter 258 of the laws of Kenya, where contributions are 200 shillings by an employer and 200 shillings by an employee. The Supreme Court, in its writing, while acknowledging the judgment of the Employment and Labor Relations Court, it allowed the Court of Appeal to proceed to hear the appeal which had been filed before it. This means the Court of Appeal may make another decision, more particularly related to the constitutionality of the Nssf Act 2013. Note that the decision which the Court of Appeal made was only on jurisdiction, which was an objection raised by the court, by a lawyer in the court. And therefore, it could not proceed in any other manner. Now, the NSSF Act of 1965, which is the place where we are today.
What is a food yako?
Sorry? Someone is talking by the side or something?
Yeah, sorry for that interruption. Members, I kindly request that we all mute our mics. We don't have to mute you out. Please mute. You can proceed, Mr. Mwangangi.
Thank you. Now, the courts having reverted us to the 1965 Act, we have to examine the provisions of that Act so that we know how to comply with that Act now as the law we are bound to obey. That Act became law on 23rd November 1965. It is the Act which established the National Social Security Fund. Its objective is to receive contributions and to pay out of the NSSF the benefits promised. And it makes provision for management and administration of the NSSF by a board of trustees. It makes provision for membership, that is who should become a member of NSSF, and the contributions to be made. The minister responsible for Social Security is given power to make regulations, and in those regulations to identify the persons who should be members of NSSF and set the contributions which should be made by those persons who are registered as members of NSSF. Principally, it is a relationship where it is only an employer and an employee relationship which is recognized under the 1965 law. Compulsory registration is for employers and employees, and the registration is compulsory and the contribution is compulsory. And if you don't register or make contributions, there is provision for prosecution for commission of a criminal offense. If you don't register or you don't make contributions, while you are a person eligible to join to become a member of NSSF. That act has a provision for exemption. The exemption, ladies and gentlemen, means if you are a person in that category which is exempted, you are not required to register or make any contributions to NSSF. And it says, no person shall be registered as a member of the NSSF at any time when he is an exempt person. And every person of a class or description specified in the second schedule shall be an exempt person. And the second schedule deals with the exempted persons. These are persons who are eligible to receive any pension benefits under any scheme, whether statutory, that is established by law, or non-statutory. These are the pension schemes, non-statutory are the pension schemes established by a trustee deed. Approved by the minister in writing as a scheme providing comparable benefits. The minister being referred to here who would give approval is the minister responsible for Social Security. And the second category is if you are a person in the public service, local government authority, or any corporation or body established for public purposes. All those people in those two categories are exempted from registering or making contributions to NSSF. The bottom line is, if you have your own pension scheme, which gives benefits that are equal or better than NSSF, you do not need to make any contributions to NSSF by registering as a member of NSSF, whether you are an employer or an employee. That act meant provision that if you fail to register, and it says if you fail to register or make contributions without lawful excuse, you are guilty of an offense. Ladies and gentlemen, the important words for you to check, because this is a criminal offense, is if you fail without lawful excuse to pay money to NSSF as prescribed, or you are liable to contribute. Or, please, the words to note one is without lawful excuse. The next part of the offense is knowingly makes any deduction from wages of his employee in respect of any contribution which he is liable as a contributing employer to pay. Knowingly is a state of mind. Without lawful excuse is a strict liability offense. You don't necessarily need to plan to do it. That is the offense under the 1965 Act. So now, there was the case of the Kikuyu Town Council. This council refused to make contributions to NSSF. And the NSSF sought to prosecute the town clerk. And the town clerk and the council said they are not making contributions to NSSF because they have an alternative pension scheme, which is LAP Trust, Local Authorities Pension Trust, where they make contributions, and that scheme is better than NSSF. Now, please note the charge, the offense is without lawful excuse. So this town clerk cited a lawful excuse of he is not paying because he is a member of NSSF, he is a member of LAP Trust. NSSF sought to prosecute the town clerk. The town council of Kikuyu and its employees, to the extent that they are persons or members of Local Authorities Pension Trust, which is an occupational retirement benefit scheme to which its employees make contributions, and the benefits are comparable to NSSF. According to that town council, they said because of their membership at LAP Trust, they therefore fall in the category of exempt persons. On 15th October 2012, The Town Council of Kikuyu received a letter from NSSF saying that NSSF will prosecute them for failure to make the contributions. The council was not very happy with that one. They applied to court in 2013 to stop NSSF from prosecuting the council for alleged failure to pay contributions to NSSF, and they cited the lawful excuse as the reason why they were not making the contribution. On 20th January 2014, after hearing the petition, the court made an issue in it and stopped NSSF from prosecuting the council or demanding any contributions from it. Ladies and gentlemen, this judgment is in the law reports and can be accessed. Even one wants to read it in full. The effect of this judgment is that there is no offense committed under the NSSF Act if you don't register or make contributions to the Nssf Act under the 1965 Act of Parliament. That is chapter 258 of the laws of Kenya. Again, NSSF did not stop there. They went to Mavoko Municipal Council, who also had refused to make contributions. And they said that they were an exempt person because they are members of the Local Authorities Pension Trust. Again, it's in the common market, it's called lap trust. So, NSSF on 24th January 2012 issued a notice to Mavoko Municipal Council with a desire to prosecute it for failure to make contributions to NSSF. Mavoko Municipal Council was not very happy, and it applied to court to stop NSSF from laying a claim for any contributions from the council. On 15th July 2015, the court prohibited NSSF from prosecuting the town clerk and the council or making any demands for any contributions. In this one, for example, the contributions had not been paid from 1990 to 2011. You can imagine how much money was that and how many years were those. I think they were close to something to do with 20 years or something. I don't know. But it's the period July 1990 to July 2011. The court stopped them and said it is not an offense where you have your own pension scheme to which you pay contributions. The meaning of these court orders of 20th January 2014 and 15th July 2015 in the matter of Kikuyu Town Council and Mavoko Municipal Council is that those two judgments are legal and valid for enforcement. In that, if you have your alternative retirement benefits scheme, whose benefits are comparable to those given by Nssf, you are not obliged to register or make any contributions to Nssf. And the matter goes on in that there is no offense. And this applies to an employer or employee who has an alternative pension scheme and not Nssf. But it will not cover an employer who does not have a retirement benefit scheme set up for its employees. So that if one does as employees as an employer and he does not have a pension scheme, then he must register as an employer and register his employees and pay contributions to Nssf. Or if an employer has a pension scheme whose benefits are lesser than those payable under the Nssf Act, then that employer must register and make contributions to Nssf. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, therefore, the Nssf Act number 45 of 2013 is not a law in Kenya. And any action which is undertaken in Kenya in the purported compliance with that act is illegal. Meaning, an employer is not obliged to register or make any contributions to Nssf of 6% or deduct from the salary of an employee in purported compliance with Act number 45 of 2013. In further conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court have recognized the judgment of the Employment and Labor Relations Court as a law in Kenya, and therefore returned the country to the operations of the Nssf Act of 1965, insofar as Nssf is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, these courts have recognized that the Nssf exists, but under the 1965 Act of Parliament, but not under the 2013 Act of Parliament. And therefore, persons who are eligible to register under that act must do so. And those who are exempted must not make the contributions or register unless they want to. And that it is not an offense to fail to register or make contributions to the Nssf under the 1965 Act of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, out of those conclusions, the way forward is the Nssf cannot lawfully seek to or enforce any of the provisions of the Nssf Act number 45 of 2013, and that employers and employees, if they receive or see any notices or demands issued by Nssf relating to the to the Act number 45 of 2013. The employers and the employees must ignore those notices. But if you feel challenged by the notice, I doubt you will, you can apply to court to set aside the notice which is issued by Nssf, if any. Such notice, I am told today, it was published in the newspapers. The way forward would be either you ignore those notices completely, because legally there is nothing Nssf can do to you. But if you also want to engage in an argument with Nssf, you can apply to court to set aside that publication. Again, as a way forward, the employers, the employees, the board of trustees of various pension schemes who have had their money taken away and given to Nssf may follow up Nssf and seek refund of their money, because the money was deducted by employers and paid to Nssf without support of the law. Simply, the deductions and payment to Nssf was illegal. The employers need not to register or make contributions to Nssf under the 2013 Act, but must do so under the 1965 Act of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, I will leave you with one statement. Even if you have not understood anything I have said or you don't like it, you can accept a real life situation. A lie does not live. You can lie about Nssf for as much as you want, but the lie will not live. Waswahili wanasema mbio za sakafuni huishia ukingoni. This presentation, I have shown you my contact of telephone numbers and an email address. If you forget anything I have said, or you don't understand something I said and you have not asked now so that I can be assisted to explain, I may have said it in Kikamba. You can write an email to me or call me on the telephone. By the time your telephone comes through, I will have known how to speak and respond in English. And if you send an email, by the time it goes in, I will also have learned English and I will be able to respond. In doing so, I will not do you a favor. I am your resource person today, and I am here because you are here. I am a retiree. May God bless you.
And may God bless you, and may you live long, retiree. Thank you so much for that presentation. And I'm so happy to see, when you see people asking questions, we say it's either because they understood or they did not understand. And I'm so happy to see that we are actually learning, and we have a few questions that have come to us. And somebody says, good evening, what next after this ruling? I don't know whether that has been answered. Probably it has been answered in a legal language, which is not direct English. Maybe Mr. Mwangangi, you can respond to that, although I think you have what next after this ruling. And then somebody said, can we then expect that employer contributions can consider any payment under NSSF Act 2013 to be advance payment and hence freeze further payments. Okay, that's an interesting route. And Risieta once again says, isn't FKE supposed to be the voice of the employers and should have interpreted the law as done today? And I think I would want to respond to that question, Lucieta. Many a times we keep saying serikali's idea, but it gets to a point where you say you also are a government in your own rights. As we wait for FKE to, to raise their voice, if they will, we have a responsibility, because remember, Hallmark Institute of Professionals is also not just a college, it's also an institution that has public interests at heart. Under the School of Pension and Insurance, we always like to demystify matters that affect retirement benefits and anything around that. And that is why we went ahead and did this. I can promise you that in the near future, you're going to see a lot of institutions raising their voice to probably even have such platforms to demystify the ruling, to demystify the way forward. And they all have a right, but as an institute, we also have a right, because we have the publics at heart. And I think Mr. Mwangangi, you can respond to that question about, can we expect that employer contributions can consider any payment under the NSSF Act 2013 to be advance payment and hence freeze further payments? That would be an interesting conversation. And I think you can combine this with what Betty says. If an employer wants to consolidate the entire 12% and channel it to an insurance company, which is a pension provider, what would be the process? Will employers need to make any application, or you can just transfer without any documentation? Mr. Mwangangi, if you can answer that in legal language as well as in English, and you can keep those questions coming. We will respond to all of them. We are so on time. Today we had made provision for enough time. So Mr. Mwangangi, over to you. Please unmute. Mr. Mwangangi, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic. You are speaking to yourself.
Oh,
good.
Sorry. Retirees sleep as soon as they finish other things. So this retiree was asleep.
Welcome
But anyway,
back.
I will try to speak to you in English. I tried to make the presentation in English, and I'm sure I did not use any legal technical words. The way forward is the answer next after that ruling. Those are the things you should be able to consider to do. That's the way forward. You should seek to recover your money from NSSF and transfer the money to your pension scheme. You should stop making contributions to NSSF unless you voluntarily want to do so. If you have your own pension scheme. If you have made these contributions to NSSF, there is a lot of legal difficulties with NSSF, which you have to overcome. But the NSSF, perhaps they are not aware, they will not buy you. It is reasonable to negotiate with them that these contributions you have made be taken as advance contributions and therefore appropriated in a manner that you will not be required to make further contributions until the time when the contribution so far made is fully appropriated in the sum of 200 shillings for the employer and 200 for the employee. As you negotiate this, it is also advisable, as an employer to consider whether doing so is the correct version, or it is good to leave the contributions as they are and continue making more for the benefit of your employees, either at the 200 or at the targets prescribed under the Nssf Act number 45. But when you are making the contributions at 6%, please don't say it is a requirement of our law. People call it statutory requirement. There is no statute here. This statute is gone. And gone as at today without trace. I have overheard a question about Federation of Kenya employers to interpret and tell people, particularly employers, what this is. With very great respect, that question is at some stage escapist. I say so because the Interpretation and the General Clauses Act, which is a law applicable in Kenya, requires you to know what the law is when it is published. It does not require you to know what the law is only when you are told by Federation of Kenya Employers. And the Federation of Kenya Employers, again with great respect, is managed by human beings who can also make a mistake in their interpretation. So as an employer, you must have your own brain, which thinks, and you have your own answer. The only precaution is where you do not know what the law says, you seek advice. Where do you seek advice from? From those who are trained to understand what the law means. The Federation of Kenya Employers has no obligation to interpret a law for you, and you can hold them liable for either misinterpreting or not interpreting at all. I will end that statement with another old life scenario. The rule of law is necessary in a constitutional democracy like Kenya. And the cost of democracy is eternal surveillance. Eternal surveillance is you keep on checking what the government is doing because it can do a bad thing to you anytime. I suspect you know what to do with the Nssf now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mwangangi. And I also want to believe, not just suspect, but we know what needs to be done in regards to this. So for those of us who are asking what next after the ruling, I would want to clarify that as an institute and together with our resource person, our responsibility is to give us the information and make a statement that sometimes we throw around very, informally or casually. And we say, whatever you do with this information is up to you. So from this information, I know so many of us are going to make decisions and take the steps that we choose to take. But again, as the resource person, Mr. Mwangangi has said, and also for Hallmark Institute of Professionals, we don't have an obligation, or we wouldn't force you or push you to take any actions, but we give you information to be able to make the right decisions. If an employer wants to consolidate, of course, there was a question of whether you just drop or take, there definitely must be processes to be able to do that. And somebody was asking, what's the greater legal risk for employers, continuing deductions or reverting to cap 258? what is the greater legal risk for employers, continuing deductions or reverting to cap 258? Okay, I think Mr. Mwangangi can respond to that. With the recording of the meeting be shared? Yes, it will be shared at the appropriate time in the appropriate format. We normally put our recordings into our YouTube channel, and so that will be done. Whether the presentation will be shared via email, yes, it will be shared as long as we have your email. And if we don't have your email, you still have an opportunity to put your email on the chat or send your email to our office line so that you can be considered when the presentations will be shared. Thank you for the insightful presentation. Has the Nssf template been updated? Currently, it is still has the option for the tier 1 and tier 2. And I think you've just answered your own question, whether the template has been updated. And of course, remembering that this ruling is not very old. Yeah, for those who are sharing your emails, yes, we will share the recording and the presentation, but also to say that for those of us who saw, there is also, of course, a communication as at today from Nssf saying that the status quo remains. The status quo remains that we should continue deducting, submitting, and of course following what has been happening. But we also are living in a nation where we know that the court rulings sometimes are not followed to the letter in this country, but we are also watching, we are following. But what is most important, I think, from what I learned on our end, is that if you choose to do the right thing, which is as per the ruling today, Nssf does not have a legal right to come and demand for you to do what they desire for you to do. So we are safe, we are covered, and of course, when there is need for backing, I'm sure we should be able to respond to that. Thank you so much, Mr. Mwangangi, for explaining the ruling in simple terms. That is Betty. Thank you so much, Betty, showing you have understood. And I saw someone by the name PK has raised his hand. We're still within time, and so I would want to give you, PK, an opportunity. You can kindly unmute your mic and make your contribution, a question or a clarification or a comment. And those of us who are sharing our emails, please keep at it. We'll share the recording. So PK, please unmute and tell us what you want to ask to hear.
Thank you, Irene. And indeed, Mwana Mwangagi, our SG, I'm a member of APTAC, so that's my SG, and kudos. No, I just wanted to have this clarification. There's suppose is this employer who has a fund that is voluntary, meaning that there are some employees who would be members, others who are not members. Now, for the sake of the participants present, maybe you could advise, is this considered exempt? I mean, because they have a fund that is, a scheme, but it's optional. Some members are, some employees are members, some are not, some are contribute to this scheme, some are not. How do we treat this? Maybe that would be a good, just thinking wildly. I mean, because that's a possibility. How do we treat such a scenario, Panamongadi? Thank you.
PK, congratulations for being a member of APTAC, and we thank you for that. It is you, the members, who make us proud and cause me to speak firmly in the pensions industry. With the employer you have mentioned, it is, please note, registration and contribution at Nssf is for an employee and an employer. And the exemption is given to the employee and the employer who has an alternative scheme. Now, for those employees who have chosen not to join the voluntary scheme of the employer, they fall in the category of non-exempt persons because they are not members of an alternative scheme. And for the purposes of those employees, the employer is also a non-exempt person. For those employees who have voluntarily chosen to join the scheme established by the employer, both the employees and the employer are exempt persons, and they do not need to register or make contributions to the National Social Security Fund. Thank you, PK.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Gangi. PK, is that clear, or do you have any additions?
Yeah, maybe as just a point of clarification. That means that you cannot be half exempt. So if you have some employees who are not members of the scheme, so you're not contributing for them, if I got it right, that makes you non-exempt. You need to register with the NSSF. Is that clear? Did I get it right, Monasdi?
There is no case code half exempt or any format like that. Registration and contribution to NSSF is in respect of an employee who is registered by NSSF or not registered. Where if an employer has two employees, one employee is a member of the scheme of the employer, then that employer is not obliged to make contributions to NSSF or register in respect of that employee, such that, for example, when the employer is filing its returns with NSSF, they will not file returns for those employees who are already members of the scheme of the employer, because those are exempt persons. But they will be required to file returns and contributions for those employees who are not members of the scheme of the employer. That is what the law means.
Crystal clear. I get it. Now that's crystal clear.
Thank you.
If you have members, employees who are not members, you are not exempt. It's crystal clear now. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, PK, for that critical question. I know you may think you're asking for yourself, but you are asking for so many others, and I just wanted to add to that. And somebody was asking, how do you become a member of APTAC, Association of Pension Trustees and Administrators of Kenya, where I am also a member. I think, Mr. Mwangangi, you can tell us, how do you become a member of APTAC? And as you do that, you can also remove your screen share so that I can also share something briefly with us as we bring this to a close. Mr. Mwangangi, how do we become members of the APTAC?
Membership of APTAC, you are at the right place. You only need to ask Hallmark to give you a form to complete, and you become a member of APTAC. The terms are set out in that form.
Okay.
Form
So
you just complete the form and send it to APTAC.
Yeah,
there is some money to pay for it. It is stated in that form, which is a registration fees and an annual subscription fees. The registration fees is a one-off payment. The annual subscription is one payment per year. The method of calculating is stated in that form. I think Hallmark has a copy of that form. If you, Irene, you don't have that form, you can ask my PA to send it to you. or you ask the person who is desirous. And I encourage all of you to join APTAC, to formally write to APTAC and ask for the form. It will be sent. The email of APTAC is at the bottom of this presentation.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that because I know there are benefits that come with being members of APTAC. Actually, participants for what you're getting today is courtesy of us being members of APTAC. And also, as I said in the beginning, we have a whole school of pension management and insurance at APTAC, where we have programs which you can undertake. I know somebody was asking if I want to learn things to do with pension administration, pension investment, pension, what we call custody. I wish Christine you were able to share that, but if not on this screen, probably you can share through our emails. We have a whole range of pension courses which we can undertake, even as comprehensive as a diploma in pension management. We call it certified pension manager. So anyone who is willing to venture into a career in pension management, we have a whole diploma in pension management. It's a competence-based diploma. It is curriculum developed, assessed, and certified by a national body called CDAC, which is the body that is replacing NEC in as far as competence, in as far as tertiary level is concerned. We are registered by TVETA. We are licensed and certified to offer programs through CASNEB, through CDAC, which stands for Curriculum Development, Assessment, and Certification Council. When you do the CPM, Certified Pension Manager Diploma, you get a certificate, which is a national certificate. You can use it in Kenya and beyond. And under that, we also have short certificates, including certificates of competency in pension administration, pension investment, pension custodial of pension assets. There is also a certificate in pension law, like what Mwangangi is talking about. We also have trust secretarial. We have actuarial services as a certificate, and many others. We have a whole 8 certificates of proficiency or competency in as far as pension management is concerned. If you do the 8 plus 5 other common units, you get a certified pension manager. And I would encourage, if you're from a HR background, if you are from, if you're a leader, a supervisor, a manager in your organization, you can even start with a basic of pension administration, which will give you a very good understanding of pension management and matters that relate to that. And with that, of course, I'll be sharing with us, for those who are interested, on how to join the APTAC, which is the Association of Pension Trustees and Administrators of Kenya. And there is so many benefits of being a member of that association. And with those many words, also to say, at Hallmark, we are all about transforming your lives through education and training. We have short courses, we have certificates, we have diplomas, we have professional courses, and we definitely have corporate trainings. Whenever you want to do continuous development for your staff, we are your to go to institution, very friendly and very beneficial courses. Coming up at the end of the month for our corporate trainings, we have artificial intelligence for businesses. Whether you're a HR, a pension manager, you will find yourself in the right place if you subscribe for that course for artificial intelligence. I think with those many words, more information you're going to be getting into your chat, so that we also don't overload you with information. Mr. Mwangangi shared his contacts in case you want to consult him directly. Please feel free. And we will share the presentation definitely, and we will continue to handhold you in case you need to make those critical decisions. I appreciate you all for joining this call tonight, and we have finished in good time. It is going to 8:25. Very good time to end our conversation tonight, because I see there are no other questions. And I would want to end it by declaring the blessings of God upon each one of us. I wish you a very blessed weekend. I wish you a very fruitful a season going ahead, and may you make very, very good decisions when it comes to matters retirement. I will close with this. Somebody on another platform asked, is this the right thing for us to do when it comes to financial security to one's retirement? Do we want to go back to the 200 shillings? And I said, we are not going back to the 200 shillings, but I said we are bringing and we are increasing financial literacy. Reason being, that we are not saving at Nssf does not mean we do not save. Actually, it's a good opportunity for us to save in the places of our choice, which are going to give us better returns and make us better at retirement. Actually, if there was a time that we saved more, it is now, because we have the freedom of choice and nobody is stopping us from saving from to places and investing in places of our choice. We will be bringing you more of this, including financial wellness, financial literacy programs, so that you can make better decisions. We look forward to seeing what you're going to do with this information, and declare that this webinar, unless there is any question or contribution, any last burning ones, I would want to say that this was a successful webinar. Thank you for joining. Thank you for inviting your friends. Go and use this information accordingly. From me, I think we are good. Thank you so much. Mr. Mwangangi, unless you have a final word, I can see your literary hands up. Please go for it.
Irene, curiously,
yep,
asked from a personal perspective, I will say, notwithstanding the law, it is good to save at Nssf. I say this because Nssf has improved, particularly in one limb, unless they change character. Last year, but one, their returns were 10%. Last year, their returns were 17%. If that continues as a trend in terms of investments at Nssf, then anything else which you know or hear at Nssf can reasonably be improved. Because for the purpose of saving for retirement, the bottom line is called the interest of the member. The interest of a member in a retirement benefit scheme or a savings is called financial interest. Pesa yangu ni ngapi? Anyone may have any feelings about Nssf, for or even against or neutral. But where they have done a good thing, like giving that return, which they have published and said it is their return, if that statement is true, then I am persuaded that Nssf is competitive for purpose of investments, most likely better than some retirement benefit schemes existing in Kenya. May God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you for that information, Mr. Mwangangi. And I saw someone said, oh, you mean Nssf and such better returns. Now you know. Now you know. PK, I see your hand is still up. Is it a new hand or is it the hand that you had raised earlier? You can lower that hand. And like Mr. Mwangangi.
There's a new hand. It's a new hand.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. And okay. There's something called attacking while defending. There's such a term. Okay. There's something about and it's the only reason, and the Nssf is posting better results is because you know they have been collecting so much since the 6%, not the 200 shillings. A return is usually maybe okay. The cost of doing business is constant. When you are doing 200 shillings, of course, the cost of running NSSF was so high. It used to be said that NSSF, for every 200 shillings you contributed, 140 went to cost of administrative costs when you are doing 200 shillings. Now, they have so much at their disposal. That's a fact. I mean, it's too much. Because you can imagine someone who was used to 200 shillings, all of a sudden they are getting 1,760, you know. They have a lot at their disposal. So the margin, the percentage of the cost of administration may seem to be low. But also, I agree with my SG. Maybe we are giving them too little, such that when you talked about, some things are fixed. You know, we have those overhead costs, administrative costs. You cannot. Some of them are fixed. You will get, supposing you have the salaries and everything that is 100 million, for example, in a year. When what you are receiving is 200 shillings, 200 million is such a humongous, figure, such that it will appear like it will consume all your benefit or all your returns. But when now this interest, when now that this contribution is higher and the cost of doing business still remains the same, I mean, you declare better interest. Number one, I must say that 200 shillings, and this one we must agree, it was nothing. I mean, in terms of how do you save 200 shillings for retirement when you're used to a salary of 50,000, 20,000 per month, but now you're saving 100,000. 200 shillings to take you through the same month that you are using 100,000. It doesn't make sense. If there's something that happened that we must be proud of, it was the issue of increasing this retirement, or let me not mention NSF for now. For those who do not have occupational schemes, being compelled to do 6%, it was the best thing that happened, in my view, in the retirement industry, because 200 was nothing. But like our SG said and our facilitator said, it is okay. It was very good for those who do not have occupational schemes. But for heaven's sake, for those who have more advanced schemes, leave them out of this. Let them do their thing. Let us concentrate in terms of NSSF. Let them target those employers who do not have occupational schemes. For those who have occupational schemes, we are still good. Whether you do 70%, most schemes that most occupational schemes, when they did the NSSF did 13%, occupational schemes were doing 20 plus. So we are still, the occupational skills are more superior. But yeah, it's an improvement. We were used to 4%, 2% with the NSSF. But I think the bone of contention of this act is, can you just leave those people who have their occupational schemes to do their stuff, compel those who do not have to contribute to the NSSF at the 6% or whatever a percentage they wish to compel them to. Thank you. I just wanted to make that contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, PK. And I want to believe that is very, very loud and very clear. Like we said, yes, saving more is definitely the way to go. Saving at NSSF, now that SG says they reported very good returns the last year, but one would be somewhere that you would believe that it's a good place to save But of course, hearing again from PK is to understand why they would have done that. Of course, the economies of scale and the cost of doing business with all the money that they had gotten. But at the same time, we would be asking ourselves then, do we want to continue saving there? And that is why I said we have a lot of options other than before, where we were being, or institutions, organizations, and individuals generally were being forced to save a particular amount. And so we have information now, we can choose where we save, but remember, if you don't have a scheme that is giving better benefits than Nssf, then we have an obligation to continue saving and investing with Nssf. And we look forward to better returns in future. I was trying to share my screen. I don't know where this has taken me. I'm not sure whether you can see what I was trying to show us. Just a minute. Let me believe that that is clear now. Somebody can confirm for me if you can see our pension courses. I was just interested in showing us that our pension courses, if you want to do any of our pension courses, we have certified pension manager, which is a diploma, takes about 2 years, and it incorporates all what you're seeing here as certificates in pension administration, trust secretarial, pension fund investment, pension fund accounting, auditing of pension funds, pension legal services, custody of pension assets, and also actuarial services. These are certificates that if you do individually will take you 2 to 3 months, but of course to make it very clear that depending on when you join, because they are also dependent on the time when the exam or the assessment will be happening. The certification and assessment is done by the body that you can see on our examination bodies. We have CASNEB. We all know CASNEB does CPA, CS, and other courses. We have NEC. NEC has been with us for the longest, but as we transition to the competence-based, we appreciate that now NEC is giving room for CDAC. NEC will remain up to the senior school, which is grade 12, and down all the way to the primary school. But now CDAC is taking up with competence-based programs at the TVET level, and that is where our certified pension manager comes in. CDAC stands for Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. So it works very closely with training institutions like Hallmark, and we also, of course, work closely with them to do assessment, what we call continuous assessment, and even final assessment. But the certificate that you get is a national certificate from this body called Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. It's a program that I would encourage as many as are interested in learning Mambo na Pension. Please subscribe for it. I can confidently say currently, if unless there are other developments, Hallmark is the only institution that is offering that course. So you can check out with us, with Christine, with Esther, or through our office lines. We'll be able to guide you. We are currently preparing for the November-December assessment. So if you want to enroll for that, you are most welcome. And definitely there you will be meeting trainers, competent trainers such as Mr. Mwangangi and many others. If you feel you're very competent in the space, again, we always look for trainers and we would want to give you a chance to exhibit your knowledge and also give it back to those who need it, your knowledge plus your experience. With those many words, once again, I just want to say thank you so much for your contribution, each and everyone, big or small. Those who have sent your emails, we are going to be updating you with this as soon as possible. And we are happy that you joined us and that you learned tonight. So I had made a prayer actually. So I want to declare this meeting officially. Yeah, I can see Reverend Nancy saying, I am well informed. Thank you so much, Reverend Nancy, all the way from Nanyuki. And those who are joining from our branch in Nanyuki, asanteni sana for joining and thank you for your support. In closure to say, Hallmark is in Nairobi, Agriculture House, Harambe Avenue, Agriculture House, 3rd floor. We are also in Nanyuki, Silver Plaza, 2nd floor. They also call it Nssf building, but we do a lot of online classes. For those of us who want to learn online, we have students in Eldoret, Meru, Mombasa, and across the country. So there is no limitation as to why you should not learn with us. Karibuni sana, and of course we'll continue informing you about our other programs. You can see we have adult education, we have computer-based short courses, and many, many others. With those many words, once again, I'm finishing like a preacher. I want to declare this webinar officially closed and look forward to having any other upcoming webinars for us to keep learning. Thank you so much, PK, for your great contribution, and to all of us, those who wrote directly or openly, tunashukuru sana. God bless you. God bless Hallmark.